and prove we're a living being and claim the estate, then our status remains as I've described. And then at the age of whatever age we take on a driver license, we attach ourselves to that name as the holder or the holder of the office of the person being the all capital letter names, which is also a franchise. It's a franchise of the United States or Mexico or Canada or the UK or any national corporation on the planet, all of which are subdivisions of the United States through Washington, D.C. So there's only one corporation on the planet, and these are all just corporate subdivisions. And so every name that's created is a franchise, but all of those corporations are bankrupt, and so it's a bankrupt franchise. And it's a debtor facility to create public debt, the commercial paper that I'm talking about, and we are the bonded surety to it. So that's our status. And if you're bankrupt, you have no standing. You cannot state a claim. You cannot hold land. You cannot do any of the things that people think we have the right to do here in this country, constitutional or otherwise. And we are simply a ward of the state. And we're allowed by license to operate a commercial vessel, which is that franchise, and to operate in commerce and continue to create commercial paper, which is what people call money. So we have this course, this process, which takes anywhere from a year to 2 years to go through properly, to properly change your status and learn what that really means. And this gets back to what you're talking about, the issue of the name. I'm going to take a break and let's have a dialogue about this, but I want to come back to that key point because I know, like you just said, that's the key thing you've worked with. But what you have to understand is you are still attached, even though you've been by very, I wouldn't call force, but being very persevering and standing, that's great because you've established that. But underlying, you still are attached to that decedent estate because every time a piece of paper was created from the day you were born until right now, bonds were created on the private side. And each one of those bonds has been traded many, many, many times. And it has accrued, each one of those has accrued a large amount on the private side of the ledger. Because the public side is where the debt sits, where the legal title is. On the private side is where the equity is generated and where the equitable title exists. Because when we talk about legal title and equitable title, we're talking about a trust. A trust is a split title. There's two titles, legal and equitable. On the legal side, all the liability exists. Liability means the debt. So that's where they keep us attached, is on the debt side. When a piece of paper is created, parking ticket, traffic ticket, court case, tax bill, whatever, it's using the franchise to create more public funds, which is monetized debt. We're attached to it on the legal side. We act as the trustee who holds legal title and has the liability of the debt. And we forget we're the beneficiary. We are the beneficiaries of life. Yeah, go ahead.
But if we know we are the beneficiary, and we know that the whole thing is done under, we know that legality is really not reality. For me, who has not had any ID for 2 years, and when I listen to you, I think, but this is just more hierarchy because you have to have money to be able to attend your university. And to me, the whole system is fraught with more people. Like, what about the most common person who will never have that kind of money to be able to pay? And it's like, can we create a society and just pull all those that don't have the funds in? And
okay, yeah.
You know, for me, it's just, I know that they think they're the beneficiary in the way they set it up. But I know that I was meant to be the beneficiary. So should I ever be hauled in court, I would say, well, who's the beneficiary? Because I know and I'm never going to go willingly, and I don't do anything to be put there, but, you know, you never know. But let's come back to to the hierarchy, please, Ken, because most of the people that are involved in stories from the heart are barely making it. And those that are making it, they have a proxy who is in the system. And those who are not are people like myself who are scrambling, and we are alone. We don't have a community. We don't have a society. And we are getting worn thin, which is why I'm quite fascinated with what you're presenting. But paperwork, to me, especially legal paperwork, A, it costs money. B, we're not trained. If it takes 2 years to train, that's why I'm definitely up a creek. And can you address it for our audience? Because
Sure, absolutely. I understand all those points, and first of all, I'm moving what I'm doing, and we as a collective whole, as our society, towards complete solution in this world. You know, for lack of a better phrase, because it's been used improperly before, but you know, no child left behind. Remember that phrase 10 years ago? Well, that, you know, all the propagandized Orwellian bullshit that they always come up with clever phrases. But the fact is, ultimately, that's what our intent is. Nobody left behind. But we've got 7 billion people on this planet, or let's boil it down to North America. We've got 350 million or thereabouts if we include North America as Mexico, then we've got almost 500 million. But let's leave Mexico out for the moment. And between the U.S. and Canada, we've got close to 350 to 400 million. That's going to take a long time. Most of them are not capable of even thinking about this stuff, much less considering doing. Yes, there's a lot of people like you're talking about, but let's look at that in practical terms. The people who, as you described, are barely making it, and in order to function, to do something in the matrix system, they need to do it through a proxy. What I'm talking about is not having to do that, actually being able to work seamlessly and fluidly. And I'm speaking from direct experience. I've done what I've been doing for 20 plus years, and I have done the same things you're talking about doing. You know, never gone to court on tickets or otherwise, refused to participate. But I've also, my wife and I and people around us, we've struggled. We're not, prospering with lots of liquidity and everything. And up until the 4 or 5 years ago, when I said we started really manifesting and grounding this into reality, prior to that, it was always on the edge, just like what you're talking about. So I've been through that. I'm speaking from direct experience. But I also know that the system doesn't care about the small pieces. It only cares, and the system is not, it's the beast. It's the mind consciousness system. That's the collective whole that's beyond even the elite or anybody else individually to really know or control. It's what we've created as the collective, and it doesn't care. It only cares about one thing, is to perpetuate its existence. And it uses every piece, every player, like Agent Smith. Look at the movie The Matrix,
It's an AI, isn't it? It's an AI. It's an AI at this point, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, it was consciousness in a dimensional way. It started with each of our minds, and our minds are the control mechanism. The mind was a overlay of the being that the programming and the systemization was inserted through. Then it started creating consciousness, and consciousness started coming together in a unified way to do what I described and so forth. Look at what's happening now. Consciousness is now, through its conduits, through its vast army of Agent Smiths, through technology and science, Frankenscience, is creating the transhuman Borg system, fusing the flesh, the living being, with the AI as you're describing it. So yeah, that's where it's going. And our task here is to stand as life and continue to expand the grounding in life, because life is a billion times more powerful than that force. It only operates on illusion. It operates on consent. So what you guys are doing and have been doing is very, very key. I'm not countering it. I'm saying we can go deeper with it. When you really understand what I'm describing, you'll understand it's not contradictory to what you just said. But let's get back to the point. The point being, the system will do anything to perpetuate its existence and its control of life. And so it doesn't care about the small pieces. It will kill a small piece, meaning the living man or woman, if it gets too out there. It will destroy a society or a country. It doesn't matter. Now look at it. It's really doing and has been for years, going full steam ahead. The gloves are off, the veils are off. It's just going for it. So in my 25 years of experience of working with and hanging with and learning from and walking with hundreds and thousands of people in this law movement, that I've watched a lot of people who, quote unquote, were free. They were free because the system finally gave up, left them alone. But how did they live? They lived in many, many respects on the edge. They lived in a cave. They lived in a car. They had to do what you're talking about, living on the edge, doing things by a proxy. And I assume what you mean by proxy is if they needed to go into the system, they used somebody who was happy to be attached to the legal system, still operated through the name so they could receive mail for them or have a bank account or whatever. But I'm interested in us all thriving, having the capacity to actually move this world. We can't do it if we're living on the edge. And so we need a ability to hold what we create. That's the state structure I described. And we need the ability to sever any presumptions or attachments to be bonded and attached to the system. And as far as addressing, well, there's people now who would like to do what I'm talking about, can't afford it. I'm aware of that. I've been doing this for decades now with the intent of just making a big business. We're not a business, we're a private society. And so, but we needed money to start building. And we got to a point finally where people saw it and what we were doing and came on board. They had means. Means meaning they were financially able. Many of them were advanced in their education in law and so forth, but they had good jobs or businesses or whatever, and they have supported the building of Pantera and Gemstone to get where we're at. Progressively, we're going to be able now to expand on that base, and we do things as much as we're able to without the need for the money part of it. So if somebody's really committed and dedicated and really wants to do this process and they don't have the funds, that's fine. They get a scholarship. They come in and they work. They have value that they can bring, so we do a value exchange agreement. That value exchange agreement is based on the value of a being, not how much money they have. But it's on the honor system. So if somebody does have the funds and can do how we've structured it on the financial side, then they contribute. The more strength we build, the more we can do that for more and more people. The more people who walk through this, the more we ground it into the physical substance of our individual lives and being and as a collective whole. The more societies we birth and teach how to do the same thing that we've done, the more visions become manifested realities. And those are strengthened. They're strengthened because we come together in a unified field in terms of numbers, and we support each other to build those visions into reality, whatever they are. Your vision